Hello everyone. Warren had asked if I would do a mix breakdown of my mix of Stay by the Workday release. So let's just kind of jump right into it, shall we? The song starts off with kind of solo piano here, and the track is a mono piano. Let's just go ahead and listen to that for a moment. Take all the plugins off. So some of the things I did here for the sound started with a little bit of high pass at 100. Again, that was just kind of taking out any of the low end rumble from the piano, knowing that later on I was going to add some piano to this track anyway. Next up was adding the CLA 76 or 1176, just to put a little bit of mild compression on there. You can see it's just evening it out a little bit. Somewhat medium attack. Pretty fast release on there. Below that is a channel EQ. All these, this is a Logic standard EQ. I really like it because it's very neutral. Did some more high passing at 78. Little dip here at the 770, and then brought up the attack at 2.4 and 4.4 hertz here, or kilohertz. Quite a bit here at the 6.5 dB at the 4.4, and then use a gain plugin to give just a little more gain to the track itself. When I do start each track, I do go through and I gain stage all the tracks, but I either missed this one or just decided that I needed to add a little extra gain to that. So that's the initial mono track there. Let's go back to the beginning and I can show you some of the other piano tracks that I added. This piano print down here was another track that was actually just kind of brought in from the original. And what I ended up doing with that was, with Logic, you can actually create MIDI tracks from the audio. So I did that, and that's what these two MIDI tracks are that we'll get to in a moment. So here you can hear this initial track that was laid out. Got a pan to the right. Added a little compression to kind of just even and bring it up. Very light compression. Then some EQ to get the attack out of the piano. Just a little bit of bottom there for it, the mid bottom, I guess, but quite a bit in the attack. 8 dB up at 6 kilohertz. We'll go back to where the other piano parts come in, so we can actually listen to those as well. These are software instruments. They are both tracks that I did with MIDI are two different Omnisphere pianos. We'll listen to this first one. So this was to be a complement to the piano print that was on the other side. You can hear the reverb kind of built into the preset there. I did add some EQ just to give it a little top end boost. Took out the low lows at 47 hertz with a high pass. And if we play the two together, I think you get a nice stereo spread. And that was something that was brought up in the comments, you know, when this came in, and you get this really huge spread in the pianos. And this is it. This is the reason why. And we can go back to the beginning again and pick up the other and I think final piano, which is an Omnisphere. It's actually a backwards piano. I'll take all the plugins off here. Yes, called Backwards Studio Piano. I'll let you listen to that with no other inserts. So these were the chords that were played from the piano print that came in, and I just converted that to MIDI. First plugin I put in is just an EQ. Again, bringing out a couple elements, ducking it here at 800 hertz, bringing a little bit of the high end in. But what I missed from this, and what I felt it needed, was it was cutting off. You got that nice reverse coming in. I wanted you to hear that for a moment. You got this nice reverse coming in, but yet it doesn't kind of flow together. So what I ended up doing was putting first a stereo delay on it, just and right in the track. Didn't bust this or anything, and so you only got it about 30% here. The left hand side is at 462 milliseconds. The right hand side's at 2 seconds. Not doing any EQ cutoff on the delay, and a little bit of feedback here at 35%. So you could hear that trail off, but yet that still wasn't giving me the total expansion that I wanted with the sound. So I put a room on it after the delay. And it almost takes out the transients. Little pre-delay on it. Decent sized tall. Did do some cutting at 410 hertz. Again, just to kind of clean up the bottom. You don't want all that reverb kind of generating a whole bunch of low end mud. And then for some ear candy, and this was actually added late in the mixing stage, I just felt that there needed to be some movement in the sound to keep you interested in what was going on. And I felt, this was in the background. It kind of meshes together. You can hear that reverb and the delay kind of just taking it with the backwards. So I, instead of automating panning, I just added this tremolo plugin that does panning. And that just sits behind all the other pianos. All the pianos are bussed to a piano bus. And that is the piano track. And if we go back to the beginning, the other instrument that comes in right at the beginning, along with the vocals, but really one of the main instruments, is the kick. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the original kick. You can see here I've added some EQ, pulled out some 100 or 101 there, and pulled out quite a bit at 910. Almost just made it, I knew it wasn't going to be my kick sound primarily, but I knew if I pulled that out, it just gives that attack to it. And then added the 1176 with a decent size, or a decent attack, quick release. The next kick is an addictive kick. I think this came with the tracks as well. Just did a bump here. It did a high pass at 40 to keep the lows out. Did a bump at 82. You can hear that. Everything at 80 and just down to that 40 that comes in. These are bussed to a kick bus, I'll go ahead and take some of that off so you can actually hear just the kicks themselves. Moving on, we have another kick. This one is the Addictive Metal. You can hear just in there for the click. High passed at 174 Hertz. Next up is the Evil Metal kick. And we get to bring in some lows. Though I'm high passing this one as well. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm doing nothing with this one, so absolutely nothing on this. It's just going to the kick bus. If we listen to the kick bus, doing a high pass at 40, pulling out at 116 for the bass. And at the same time, I do send it to a parallel kick bus, which is right here. Go ahead and send that over. You can see I'm all buttons in. Well, what I did here is I actually use a slow attack with a quick release, so that we get that attack out of it that that I kind of wanted in the parallel, not losing any of the transients. Take that to the bus. So this is everything combined. Part of the track, you'll see some other instruments here. These are additional kicks that I ended up adding, and just in part of the song. So let's see. I believe it's in the chorus.
I shouldn't ask when I know you want me now. You want me now.
And so here, you can actually hear this other kick drum come in. It's just a EXS 24 sample. That one's going to another drum bus, another kick bus. Looks like I'm pulling out some 60 and 127.
You say my name
And here,
and follow. Stay away from me. Stay.
I put in a little electronic kick. And that was obviously in the chorus.
You hear if the star.
You can hear that I pulled out that really, really low rumble. I didn't want that kind of boom type of feel to it, but I wanted this sound. When that's laid in with the rest of the drums, I'll just do. And actually, it's a drum bus too. I actually have snare drum in there as well. But you can hear those kicks come in, and then in the chorus here. So that's the kicks, and they pretty much stay that way for the remainder of the song. The electronic kick comes in at that chorus and just kind of plays it out through the end. All right, let's go to some of our snares here. snares come in later. Go listen to the snare top. Let me go ahead and take that off as well. I do have a snare bus. So high pass at 177, little duck at like 1498. Getting some compression. You can tell I like the 1176 on drums. Slow attack and fast release. And I wanted to get rid of some of those toms. All the bleed. I knew I wasn't going to use just the snare top for my snare sound. So I definitely was aggressive with the gate. So you can tell it's just the attack. And there's the snare bottom. We take everything off there. Just some high pass. Again, I'm with the high pass, I'm just cleaning up anything that might be residual that I don't need. I know that snare might not even go down that far, but I just don't need anything that would be picked up by that. Then we've got let's finish this compressor. Little EQ going on again. Doing some high passing and then a lot of boost. Just getting that buzz out of the bottom. And then gate. Pretty aggressive. Just kind of shutting it up. Let's go to the addictive snare here. When the snare comes back in. Nothing. Just as it is. So that is a snare that I added. I just took the addictive, one of the addictive snares, or the addictive snare, I guess, and created MIDI for that. Ended up with another Logic EXS 24 sample, and obviously some reverb on there, as you heard. Threw a compressor on it. Fast attack on this one, really clamping it down. And then I send it over to this reverb. It does go out the bus too with the electronic click. But the reverb you're hearing, large haul, 3.5 seconds. I think, yeah, it can go up to 3.5. I cut it down to 2.8. The snares also have their own reverb on them as well. The snare bus. We want to just play some of this. So that's, you can hear the snare. The snares themselves also have a reverb on them. The snares are also sent to a parallel, and that is here, which has verb as well. I'm sending it to the verb and just you know, crushing that. We hear everything together. There are your snares. You can really hear that long reverb. Go back to our tracks here. Oh, looks like I have some other snares that might be in.
I'm calling.
Got rack toms. Obviously that plays a important part in this song. Rack tom and floor tom. Just play a little bit of that for you. This was one that I had a lot of trouble with. Just getting that right sound. I have a lot of problems with toms in general, but just getting the sound that I want. So start it off with a gate. Get rid of all that bleed. So not all of it, because you can hear the snare. So I'm not too aggressive on the gate. Roll off the really low stuff off of this rack tom. Bring it up with a different compressor from Logic, but this is still built in. Then I send it over to an EQ, so you can hear right there at that 142 where it's hitting. A little bit of that high end. Then I decided, why not throw an SSL channel on it? I really don't remember why I chose to do SSL, other than just that's one I hadn't used for a while. Doing no EQ on here at all. It's only for the compressor, so it looks like the compression ratio is 4:1. You can see it's not doing a ton of compression. Almost 6 dB though. But I still wasn't getting what I needed out of the drum. So that's when, and thankfully Logic has added this, and I found it. It's their, let's call it their Pultec, right? And this, I just love for drums. It's magical. So later on, I actually decided that I still wasn't happy with the tom sound that I had going on. So what I ended up doing was taking that and doing converting that to a MIDI track and adding some sampled toms. So now we'll just hear those. So I ended up trying to tune those close to the original tom itself, so it wouldn't be too far off. And then we just add those. And that's your tom sound, or your rack tom sound. Did something very similar with the floor tom. Left all that bottom end on the floor tom, brought down looks like 246, and then actually low passed at like 8K. Again, bring in some compression. You can see I even left the auto release on this. Does a decent amount of compression too. Then I bring in a channel EQ. Get the little snap of the tom. And then the 1176. That was more of just a control. You can see a slow attack, medium release. Wasn't real satisfied with that sound either and decided to add some samples to it. And the samples were all added very late in the mix. And there's our tom sound.
Now,
let's see. Let's go into the hi-hats here. When they really come in towards the end. That's just a lot of high passing. And then a lot of high end. And some more high passing as well. Just sending it to the same room for the snares. I'll just loop this, make it a little bit easier. Here's our overheads and rooms. So the overheads are stereo. And you can tell I just took everything out of the bottom for that. And just made that nothing but top end. Then the room. So you've got the room mic there. And what I ended up doing was just kind of, it almost sounded a little distorted to me anyway. So I just decided to cut it off a little bit more. Just adds a little grit to the overall sound. You know, you had all that brightness going on in the overheads. That just kind of brings out, you know, a little grit to the drum track, right? Okay, so that are the drum tracks. Okay, let's go on to the bass tracks here. I apologize for any extra noise that's coming through the microphone or whatnot. It's Arizona, and my studio is in the upstairs part of the house, and so the air conditioning has come on, and I have a fan above me, and this Lewitt microphone is very good at picking up just about everything. So you'll hear a little bit of that. I do apologize, but you get the gist. So with the bass tracks here, we'll start with the bass DI. Take off all the plugins for a moment. So this was actually a trick I learned for the master classes. Was that when you have multiple tracks like this, and you've seen it in Warren's videos as well. You know, if you've got you've got the bass DI plus the amp. You know, use the DI for your lows, and then use the amps for your highs. So that's all I'm doing. You know, putting it into practice, right? So do some low pass here at looks like 433. Let's go ahead and loop that. And took off all that top end. Low compressor. This is just kind of my standard for bass. You know, I'll just put after I do that sort of EQ, I'll do a little compressor. Not much. You can see it's just not doing too much to it. Then I'll do some EQ here, and you can see I ended up bringing everything up. I should take off all the other plugins as well on the bus. And then I throw in a compressor at the end. That one's hitting pretty decent. mentioned the bass bus. So all the bass tracks are sent to a bass bus, and you can see on my bass bus, I actually put in good old R bass. And I think 80 hertz is what it comes up as default. Little MV2, and that just, wow, what a great plugin. And then I needed to get it out of the way of all the other stuff that was going on. So I did a high pass at 60. And all the basses get that treatment. So all the basses get the R bass, the MV2, and the high pass at 60 as they are all going through the same bus. That includes the amp here that we'll take a look at. So this is the amp track. You can see I didn't, you know, where I had low passed the DI at 433, you can see I didn't high pass at that for the amp. I think actually at the time it was like, well, I'm not hearing that. It doesn't seem to be getting in the way of the DI, so you know the 120 was okay for me to do. Throw on a little compressor, not too bad, pretty steady at 3 dB compression. Channel EQ on the bass. You can hear that I just really pulled out that pick. A little more compression just to even it out. And finally, grit it up a bit. And just put a little bit of distortion on there. And when you get the 2 going, and because again they're going through the R bass, the MV2, and another REQ, that's the bass sound. Now, the bass, and I didn't put these tracks together, and you know I didn't think about it really until later. But there were these tracks here are pretty much, you know, similar. I did just copy and paste the settings right over from the corresponding. So the DI that was in the verse now becomes the same settings that are in the chorus, etc. I do believe here, though, we actually have a different bass. So with this one, and I believe when I hit this channel, the REQ was off. I had it on there. You can see I was doing I probably copied and pasted this. So yeah, probably did, because it's 433, and felt that that wasn't needed for this particular DI. Again, where he was playing in the register of the bass, just really wasn't necessary. So it goes right to the compressor, goes right to the EQ, and then just to another compressor. The amp portion of that, I take the plugins off, getting a little high pass there, 120. Go back into a little compressor. Really getting the pick attack out of that. Go into another compressor, smooth it out, and then grit it up. 2 together. And I felt that because there was another bass part playing, obviously this was, you know, a special part that needed to be brought out, so I panned them super wide. So that kind of just fills out everything there. The doubled parts down here, I believe, remain muted throughout the entire song. Just never used. Yeah, those tracks I never used. Usually when I do that, I get rid of them, but I must have kept them in thinking, hey, maybe I'll use them later. So next up is the acoustic guitars, and this was actually probably the funnest funnest time I had with the mix and doing all interesting, like a little ear candy type of things. And it was really when I first mixed the song and had a mix. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. This is really where I spent most of my time, was in these acoustics and the electric guitar tracks. So let's just take a listen here. Pull everything off, make sure it's not being sent to anywhere. It is going to an acoustic bus for everything, but there's nothing on that bus. So I added, again, a little high pass here, just taking away the stuff that I don't need. But really wanted that MV2 on there, instead of just like a standard compressor. That the high and the low for this, and with the MV2, just really does a great job on it. Then I added some channel EQ. You can see I'm pulling out 7.5 at 80, 7 at 7 dB at 370 hertz. But then I'm boosting 2200 and 6300. If we look at the corresponding track, you can see probably similar settings, probably a copy and paste. Yeah, pretty much copy and paste. Again, they're similar tracks, right? So I wanted a similar sound. I didn't want dissimilar things going on. And we would bring those in. There you go. Now, where I started to have a little fun was when I started playing around with the bus here. So I have an echo on one of the buses. I actually end up sending the acoustic, you can see acoustic 1 delay. So I'm just sending it to an echo. It's at a quarter note here because it's timed with the tempo of the track. 64% feedback. Just sending a little bit out to that. But I panned it completely to the right, so opposite of where I'm panning the original. And I do something similar on its corresponding track. I want to point this out to you, but you can see here I have a different echo amount and quite a bit more feedback on this one as well. And again, I'm panning that one to the opposite side of the original source. So it's that faster delay. And then when you throw the two of them together, they create a cool little rhythm with the delays. And I kind of like that as for part of this song. When you hear it all in.
Stay and wait for me, stay and wait for me. I will call when I'm coming.
So now let's get to more of the 12 strings, which you kind of heard in there. So again, low, high pass here, 290. MV2, which is great. And our channel EQ to just bring out the brightness of that guitar. That's really all I wanted in there. There were other things that were going to fill up the mids, so I decided that I would just bring out the highs in these guitars. The other one is very similar. When you look at its setup, probably a copy and paste again, the same sound, so I don't want to make them too different in terms of their plugins. And these are set at 45, so not ultra wide, but just kind of filling in. Again, you have the other acoustics that are going all the way out, so these come just a little bit inside, a little, to fill that space. But again, got crazy with the delays. We look at the bus here. Go ahead and turn it on. Painting to the opposite side. This one looks to be set at 115.4 milliseconds. So fairly fast. However, this one is set to 923 milliseconds going the other way, obviously from the source. And then you throw these two in. And again, it's just this cool little rhythm that they create. And when you put them with the other acoustics, they just create this cool little bouncy part that I liked during that section of the song.
Stay and wait for me, stay and wait for me. I will call when I'm coming. Stay and wait for me. I'll find you here if the stars allow it. It's even worse when I'm close and deny it. I shouldn't ask when I know you want me now. You want me now.
So now we go on to the electric guitars, especially in this section. We got, this DI. Take a listen to this, turn off everything here. Cool little sound on its own. And I don't know if you can officially call this reamping. I do. Within Logic, though, you can pull up different amp sims. So I pulled up this clean sound here. Little compressor on it. Channel EQ gets rid of that super low, so it doesn't get in the way of anything. And a couple of interesting things here. So this track is actually, if I'm not mistaken, this track is actually duplicated, I believe, yeah, in this next line. So what I ended up doing here was throwing a pitch shift on this particular track and setting it to 10 cents plus 10 cents and just a 25% mix. I mean, it's just right on the track. So it gives a little chorus effect because of the mix. And then because I love delays, put in a little delay here on the left. 462 milliseconds. On its companion, you'll see that all the plugins are essentially the same. So as we go through compressors, channel EQ to get just a really clean high of it, pitch shifter, this time set to minus 10 cents, and our stereo delay going to the right at 231 milliseconds. So the two of them together. And now we have the guitar amp. Just a little compression. Little bump here at the around 1K. close to 3K. However, its companion kind of went really crazy with. So this is the normal sound. I wanted it to be a little bit different. So here I pulled up a pedal board that Logic contains. You see a treble boost and then some grit. Yeah, just really tear it up there. These two tracks here, the Dupe 3 and Dupe 4, look like were never used. Just left them in. These I put in. I would almost bet they have the same EQ on them. Yep. Same EQ, just panned. Opposite.
Stay and wait for me. I'll find you.
So we have some other guitars here. Take a listen to this. So this one I ended up putting another pedal collection on. Little compressor. Little chorus. I have no idea what this mixer's doing in there. I probably accidentally put it in there and it's doing absolutely nothing. Then I threw it through this little combo amp here with a, looks like a ribbon. Ooh, look, a 121. These other tracks that are duplicates have the exact same settings on them. Again, just panned. This one even has the same settings. That one just has a channel EQ on it. Apparently I didn't like anything of that sound, so I pulled it all out except for, you know, about 2K.
Now.
So the same thing goes with all these tracks as well. Alright, let's find this guitar. This looks like it's gonna be more of like a little bridge section here. This was a lot of fun as well. Just a little arpeggio. Pull out the low end, high pass at 310. Get some compressor in there. Just really pulls out that pick in the high end of that. And then it's so 80s, let's just go ahead and throw some huge ensemble chorus on there. And then I decided to send that through a delay. So I'm doing 8th note dotted. Again, it just gives that bounce. And I took all the bottom end out of that, so I didn't want any of the bottom end in the delay. And it just gives that cool little bounce, almost like the edge. These tracks here. This one just kind of, did a high and a low pass on it with some compression. I believe that one actually had the delay on it, so again, just a little compression. Get that high end out of it. Settings there for the guitars. A lot of guitar tracks in this section, and so panning them and where to place everything and how does this all fit, and then finding those, making sure that, again, with the stuff that should be duplicates that I wanted the same sound, putting those together, and then bringing that all, with the other sounds that I didn't want to sound the same, and doing different delays and such, and throwing that all together, and then that comes into the guitar bust. The acoustics are on their own bus, so this is just electric guitars. Alright. Now we can go on to, we've already discussed the piano. I think what I'd like to do, because we're in this kind of bridge section here, is bring in those other elements, and these were all added at the end. These were things where I was like, I need something that goes on in this middle section, and that was really why I threw these in. They're just this one's an Omnisphere. I don't even know what that is. A cool patch that I found that I really wanted to bring in. So let's take a listen to that. Sort of has its own pan effect to it. One of the first guitar pedals I ever owned was a phaser, so I kind of wanted that phasey sound to this. So I threw that in this section. And while all that's going on, you got the pianos and the little guitars being bounced around. I threw in a choir. And so we have the Omnisphere choir here. I just threw a simple reverb on here. Little hall reverb. And then I got lazy again and let the tremolo do my panning for me. Kind of like that. Then as it comes out, we just have a very simple pad. And you come out of this, and I do just a little sweeper. This sweeper was actually, just like an effects. I think I might have found it as part of one of the Apple loops, and then just reversed it, put them together, put the endpoint where I wanted it to hit. So we've got that here. Little automation on the pan. And that is it for really all the instruments, I believe. All right, let's talk vocals. Let's take a listen to the lead vocal here. Let's take off all the plugins.
I landed here with the world 2 steps away.
Yeah, I really thought that this vocal was recorded quite
Sizing
well.
up the line I've crossed 100 times. Taking count of all the nights considered lost.
So I brought it into the first plugin,
Holding
channel
tight to
EQ.
who we were
High
before
pass.
I knew of all the dirt. And
really
stay with me, don't leave, I need
brought in
you
that breath
now. And when
here.
I do it's right, I know I'll make
course,
you
doing that
proud.
Is going to bring in some of the
Instead
S's.
of pacing
So threw in a
back and
de-esser.
forth and giving in when you want more. So it's a shame now that I can't follow.
And then brought in here
Stay
at like
and wait
the
for me,
1500
stay and
hertz.
wait for me. I will call when I'm coming. Stay and wait for me. I'll find you.
It almost gives him back a little nasally quality, but it kind of fills it out a little bit, especially when it was in the track, right? So that's what I was listening to, everything that was in the track. Couple of sins here that are going out. The first one being to it's a reverb.
Here, if the stars allow it, it's even worse when I'm close and deny it.
I've got the
I
reverb
shouldn't
on.
ask when I know you want me now.
What I'm doing is the good old trick of sidechaining the compressor with the lead vocal. So it comes after the reverb. That way that the...
You want me now.
You hear that come in, the reverb come in afterwards. It doesn't just, the vocals not drown in reverb at that point. And then same thing on this other bus in terms of sidechaining, but now I'm doing it with a delay.
For me, I will call when I'm coming. Stay and wait for me. I'll find you here if the stars allow it. It's even worse when I'm close and deny it. I shouldn't ask when I know you want me now.
So that's our setting for the vocal, and if I'm correct, all that's, I mean, that's it. That's the vocal sound. It's that easy. All I did, that just goes to a vocal bus, and that vocal bus, all I have on it is the Vocal Rider plugin, which gets its sidechain from the instrument bus. So all of my instruments go to one bus eventually. So, you know, the guitar buses, the drum bus, and everything go to an instrument bus, and I have the vocal bus. This is typically how I work. I will put the Vocal Rider on to the vocal bus and sidechain it with the instrument bus. So it's basically doing my automation for me.
You want me now.
That's the song.
Landed here with the world 2 steps away. Sizing up the lie I've told 100 times. I can hear.
I do need to mention on my mix bus, I guess, looking at it, it's really not doing anything by much, you know. So the CLA mixdown plugin, I have this on my template. So as things come in, I'll explain a couple of the things that I do have. I have SonarWorks as part of my template, and then I have this meter. This meter I actually use, and it was something that I learned from Graham over at the Recording Revolution, and it's kind of how to get your bass and your kicks to kind of be a little bit more even. So I use this. He has a video on YouTube if you want to check it out. But you can, the idea is that you take the kick bus or your kicks, however you have them. So, and what you want to do is you want to look at this, and you use VU meters for this. You get it to where they're peaking at about -3. And then the idea is that you bring in the bass guitar, and your level, in order to match, should bring your peaks up to about 0. And I use that trick quite often to at least get the initial level. I mean, things will change, with automation and stuff throughout the track, but that at least gives me a good kind of, oh yes, my kicks and my bass kind of sit together there. And then the CLA mix down here, as you can see, I've actually turned the bass off. Everything else is on, just to be on. There's nothing boosted or anything like that. I did find, though, that this, just by putting this on and not doing anything else to it, adds a little bit of compression to the track itself. And you can actually see this, your gain reduction here, and just a little bit. Of course, pegging the meters.
I shouldn't ask when I know you want me now. You want me stay and wait for me. I will call when I'm coming.
And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it, gives you an idea of some different tricks that you can do. Have fun with delays, I do. And if you have any questions or comments, just feel free to leave them with the video or hit me up on the Academy, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. So thanks. Enjoy.